StrayAllDay.com.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, and insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, excuse me, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is what they all agree on. The they that I'm referring to, I'll tell you who that is in a moment. Before we do that, I'll remind you of two things. First of all, my daily motivation and Monday motivation messages guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point, start your day, your week, respectively. All you got to do to get it is be part of my texting community. It is free to join. Text me at my number, 305-384-6894. And once those messages start going out again, you'll be getting them straight to your phone. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That is a place where I do all of my high level and direct coaching. If you would like to have me as your direct coach, all you got to do is go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, where you can see the stories of people who we have worked with in the past, people who we are working with in the present, and you can make yourself maybe one of the people we will work with in the future starting today. Again, that's workonyourgameuniversity.com. Moving that out of the way, let's get into the topic here today. What they all agree on. Who is they? I'm referring to people who talk about anything involving personal development, growth, achievement, and forward advancement. All right, so anyone you hear talking about these things, and there are thousands of people who talk about these things, including myself. You know, I create a lot of this material and also consume a lot of it. I read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of interviews and material from people who are talking about growth and advancement, often from different angles than my own. And what I'm going to share here today are the commonalities that, regardless of the source, when the subject is accomplishment, there are no discrepancies. That's what I'm going to talk about. The areas in which there are no discrepancies, where everyone disagrees to the following things that I'm going to share here today. These are universal. No matter who you hear it from, what angle they're using to explain it, they all agree on these things. Now, they don't agree on everything else, and I'm not saying here today, but these ones that I'm going to share here today, these are widely accepted, and there are no exceptions. How many do I have here today? Let's see if I have 4 of them. Okay, you ready? Let's get into it. Point number 1. Topic, once again, is what they all agree on. This is when it comes to growth, advancement, and development. Number 1, that everyone agrees on, no matter what source you get it from, male, female, young, old, whatever. You must operate as if you are already successful. No one disagrees with this. No matter where you get it from, they all agree that one of the keys to becoming the success that you wish to become is that you must start operating right now, today, as if you already have achieved the success. Whether I'm listening to someone who's sharing principles from the Bible, or someone who's from the hood who learned these things in the street, someone who's been incarcerated for decades in prison, whether I'm listening to an athlete or a person who specializes in training salespeople, whether it's Western philosophy or Eastern philosophy, male, female, young, old, everyone agrees with this principle. Now, I'm not going to say that with each one of these points, but what I just said, that applies to all these principles, the ones I'm going to share here today. You must set it in your mind that you are the successful person that you aim to become, and you must carry yourself as that successful person starting now, and not wait until you have the success to become this individual, because it won't happen if you wait. You must operate as if you already have the success that you're looking to achieve, and carry yourself like that type of person first. This is also known as the being part of the being, doing, having process that you've heard me, if you listen to the show regularly, you've heard me talk about this many times. You must be the person first, then you do the actions, then you get the outcome. So also known as the having. You have to carry yourself like the person first. That's where it starts. Most people mess this up because they start with the actions, and then when they don't get the outcomes, they just keep doing more actions. This is why people literally work themselves to death, because they have the wrong formula. It's not because work is bad, it's because you have the wrong formula. So it is the aura. So when we talk about this, the way that you see yourself is the way you behave, right? The way you see yourself is the way you will behave. You conduct yourself as a person who you think you are. So has any of you ever known a person who had way more potential than maybe they even thought that they had, or they were a lot better or had a lot more ability than maybe they carried themselves as if they didn't have that much ability? Because I mean, you can't read another person's mind. But have you ever seen someone who, let's say in sports, they had a whole lot of ability, but they played as if they weren't that good? Or you ever seen on the flip side, someone who didn't have much ability, but they carried themselves as if they had a whole bunch of it? Well, of course, we've all seen this, right? And the way you see yourself is the way you will behave. Again, have I said that enough? The way you see yourself is the way you will behave. So even if you don't have much to offer, if you carry yourself as if you have a lot to offer because you see yourself as that type of person, people will eventually start treating you as if you do, even if you don't. All right, maybe just because they want to humor you, because they just like the confidence that you are exuding. The energy that you emanate is based on who you see when you look in the mirror. That's the reason why I wrote my book, The Mirror of Motivation, which you can get at mirrorofmotivation.com. It's all about this. It's all about what energy you're putting out there based on the way you show up every day. And that energy is based on who you see when you look in the mirror before you go out into the world. Is the aura that people pick up from you. Again, just the energy people feel coming off of you, even if they don't know you, even if they don't even speak to you. People can just feel, you can just feel the energy in another person. Can we agree to this? Have you ever walked past a homeless person who is stumbling and straggling down the street? They have a certain energy, right? You ever walk past a person who is dressed in a very professional and sharp way, and again, you didn't talk to them, but just the way they were carrying themselves, just the way they were walking, the look in their eyes, their body language, all of the things just told you, like, I don't know who this is, but this person looks like they're somebody. You ever seen that? Of course you have. Again, you don't even have to talk to this person or have any idea who they are. Maybe you just walk past them in the airport or something. Just the way they were carrying themselves, it gave you a certain impression of who they were. Is this true? Of course it is. And one of the things about living in a type place that I've been living in like high-rise buildings for the last 15 years, pretty much. Yeah, actually, exactly 15 years. You come across people all the time. Every time you go in and out of the building, you're engaging with different people, whether it's the people at the front desk, whether it's one of your neighbors who you know, whether it's some random person in the elevator who you didn't even know they lived here, you never seen them before, you never see them again. You engage with different people and you can pick up on people's energies. You pick up on people's energies all the time. And people are picking up on your energy all the time, even if you're not doing anything. You're just walking in the elevator, hey, good morning, even if you don't say anything. People are picking up on your energy through your body language, through your eye contact, through the way you hold your body, the way you carry yourself, the way you walk, the way you're dressed. People are picking up on all this stuff every time you interact with another human, even if the interaction is just energetic. It doesn't have to be conversation. And the way that other people will perceive and respond to you is based on the energy that you are giving off. So if you like to change the way people are responding to you, then you need to change who you see when you look in the mirror. This is how it works. And the impression that other people have of you plays a big role in what other people will or will not do for you, with you, or to you. Is this true? The energy that people pick up from you plays a big role in what they will do for you, with you, or to you. All of this comes from the way that you choose, keyword choose, to show up. People do not get impressions of you that didn't come from you. All right? People can't have an impression of you that you didn't make. You did something to make them think that way. And there is something that you had to have done, said, or put out there that gives people an impression about you. Therefore, you have control over this perception. Again, not only the perception that others have of you, but also the perception that you have of you. The way you carry yourself tells you a lot about you as well. So what do you see when you look in the mirror? Again, how many times have I said this question already? We're still on the first point. This plays the biggest role in your success, failure, or mediocrity over anything else that you do in life. Who you see looking in the mirror plays a bigger role than the weather, than your genealogy, than where you come from, than the neighborhood that you live in, than whether you're male, female, black, white, whatever, wherever you come from, your nationality, your religion, the people who are around you. Who you see when you look in the mirror plays a bigger role than all of that, because we can agree that there are people who started out in what looked like really terrible losing hand situations, yet still became wildly successful individuals. Is this true? Of course it is. And we know it because we know the stories. And that means, by just deductive reasoning, that if they could do it, you could do it. And if you come from a situation that's not nearly as bad as some of these other people, then that means you have a head start on them going and making it. The difference with them is that they had to muster all they could and use everything in their environment to basically turn it into this energy, because otherwise they would have gone under, staying in the adverse situation that they started with. Whereas maybe you're somewhere in the middle. Maybe you don't feel that sense of urgency to do so. So that actually could be to your detriment. Good news is, when you're conscious about it, you can still push yourself up over that hump. But it starts again with who you see when you're looking in that mirror. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is things that they all agree on when it comes to personal and professional development. Number 2, you must keep your mind locked on what you want, never focusing on what you don't want. There's another one that everyone agrees with. Again, speaking of what we just said on the first point, everyone agrees. There is no positive benefit to negatively projecting your future when it comes to your personal life, your professional life, your success, your growth, anything you're working on, trying to achieve, or anything in between any of these. There is no positive benefit to negatively projecting the outcome of your future. There is none, zero. Now, it doesn't mean that you do not consider things that could possibly not work, such as when you are strategizing and planning. That's different. I'm saying negatively projecting, meaning you are basically thinking. There's no positive to thinking right now what is going to be like when I lose or I fail or I don't succeed or things just don't turn out. That's not what I mean. When you're strategizing and planning, you can say, okay, well, what if we're expecting 500 people, but only 100 show up? Or what if we're expecting 500, but 5,000 show up? What are we going to do? That's part of your strategizing and planning. That's not projecting negatively. How am I going to feel and be defeated when things don't work out the way that I want to? Two different things. You should not allow your mind to conjure up, dwell on, or paint your emotions with any projection of negativity, failure, loss, or setback. No one has ever succeeded by doing this. And again, it doesn't mean that these things won't happen. Just because you're predicting and projecting a positive outcome and success on everything you do does not mean everything you do is going to end up as a success. However, if you're projecting negativity, is a very slim chance you're going to win. The only way to end up winning in the future is to expect winning in the present. You usually don't end up winning when you're expecting to lose. If you expect to lose, usually you lose. Negative energy has that power. And this does not mean, again, that things that you don't want to happen can't happen. You may still lose the game. You might still suffer a setback in your business, but it doesn't mean that you should not have your mind as a participant in the process. But it doesn't mean that you should, have your mind as a participant in the negative process, because if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You don't need to project it in the future, because negative thinking in the present about something that's going to happen in the future is simply a down payment on your failure. Why would you do that? It's like putting failure on layaway. I'm going to make 4 installment payments of this failure. So I'm going to start thinking about it now. Then next week, I'm going to think about it more. And the week after, a little bit more. The week after, think about it a little bit more. And then after that, then I'll have my failure. All right, I'll just get myself ready to fail right now. Why would you do that? And again, no matter who I've heard it from, and I've taken in a lot of personal and professional development material, no one says anything other than you want to project positively into your future and think about your future in a positive way before it happens. No one goes against this. No one disagrees with this point. If you find someone who does, show them to me. Negative thinking is a down payment on future failure. In other words, again, as I said, you're putting failure on layaway and just put some money down right now, and every week you come make another payment. Why would you do that? Every time you think negatively, every time you worry, every time you allow yourself to get anxious about your future, you are making a down payment on future failure. And it's a non-refundable deposit, by the way. None of these activities create positive outcomes ever, anywhere in life, or for anyone. And on this point, all experts agree. There's no reversal of this point. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, we are talking all the things that they agree on. I'm talking about people who talk personal and professional development. These are things that everyone agrees on, even if we all have different opinions on other things. We all agree on these things. Number 3, for growth, you must get off the treadmill of the familiar and step into the discomfort of change. No exceptions. Everyone agrees with this. If you want to grow, you must get off the treadmill of doing the same things that you've been doing, and you must deal with the discomfort of change. Now, the question here is, what treadmill do you get off of, and which change do you embrace? There's different ways of looking at it, and it depends on your personal situation. For some of you, 90% of what you're doing, you should keep doing, is 10% that needs to change. For others of you, 10% of what you're doing, you should keep doing, and 90% of it needs to change. And for others of you, it's somewhere in between. This is why you need fresh eyes, someone other than yourself, to take a look at what you're doing so they can help you out with your personal situation, because it's different for everybody. But anyone who wants to grow must do something different than what they're doing now, because if what you were doing now was going to lead to growth, then you would already have achieved the growth. You got to do something different on some level somewhere. And this applies to everyone. Again, no one is an exception for it. No one is exempt from this. Now, this is the one that's most uncomfortable. Of all the points that I'm going to share here today, this is the one that's most uncomfortable for most people. Because in order to get the growth that you want, you have to stop many of the things that you're already doing. You got to do some new things. And you got to be willing to do those new things. And you got to be willing to stop some of the things that you're already doing that you have become very comfortable with, things that you may even be very good at, and things that might actually be producing for you fruitfully. You might still need to drop them in order to pick up the things that are going to help you get to where you want to go. So if you have a product that you're selling right now for $100 a piece, and it's selling pretty well, but you want to start selling a product for $1,000 a piece, you got to stop selling a $100 product in order to sell the $1,000 product. You may go through a period of no sales because people have not yet adjusted to you being a $1,000 product seller, and you're watching those $100 sales walk away that could have been in your pocket. You're like, damn, I'm missing out on those $100 sales. But when you finally make that $1,000 sales worth like 100 of the $100 sales, even though it's less money, the fact that you've established yourself at a new level and you've established this is a new norm and you built the confidence here, now you can go make more $1,000 sales. Most people are not willing to do that. Most people are not willing to drop the thing that they're currently doing, especially if it's producing something positive for them, because they're thinking of the loss. What am I missing? When you're not even considering what you have now freed yourself up because you dropped something. Now you freed your hands up to go grab the higher level thing. And this is what stops a lot of people from, again, moving to the next level at anything, because they don't want to let go of what they're currently doing. I talked about this in, let me see if I find it. It was episode number, actually I came across something else. Episode 1363, the scarcity mindset that is holding you back. And if I can remember the title. See, one thing about having so many episodes of this show, I can't always remember the titles that I use, but I will find it in 1 second. Let me see if I can find it. I just found it. Episode number 1207. Don't settle for good enough out of fear that you won't find better. And this is what happens with a lot of people. This is what I'm talking about here when I say stepping out of the familiar and stepping into the unfamiliar. Is something is good enough and is working for you right now. Again, you're selling a product for $100, but you want to sell it for $1,000, which is the better. But you got to drop the $100 sales in order to grab onto the $1,000 sales. You can't do both at the same time. You can't say, let me get established at $1,000 while still selling at $100, and then I'll drop the $100. Ideally, that's the way it would work, but the world is not ideal. We're not living in a utopian society. It's not going to be easy. And if it was easy, y'all know the rest of that sentence, right? Everybody will be doing it. The reason you're not doing it is because it's not easy. And I'm telling you that everyone who talks personal and professional development, we all agree on this point. You have to let go of the comfortable thing in order to reach for the thing that is going to be at first uncomfortable, but that's where all the growth is. Are you willing to do that? Open question. Again, the new things that you may need to do in order to move to another level, you may not know what those new things are yet. You don't even know what they are, but you do know that the things that you're doing now ain't it. So you got to drop those. You must accept that there are new things that must be inserted into your life or accepted into your life. And there are some old things that need to be removed from your life. All right, you have to first mentally accept that before you're in a position to do anything about it. In my experience, the more things you are willing to drop and remove, the more opportunity you give yourself for growth. The more things you are willing to drop and remove, the more opportunity you give yourself for growth. Doesn't mean you have to drop everything, but are you willing to drop everything? I talked about this in the episode where I talked about your sacred cows. That was episode number 1699. Sacrificing your sacred cows. There's also 4 ways to avoid living in the past forever. Sacred cow is simply an idea or habit or practice or belief that you have that you would not drop, not change, not let go of no matter what. And the more sacred cows you have, the more stuck in your current situation you shall remain. And you may have a sacred cow and you don't even realize it's a sacred cow. This is an ingrained habit. So you're just doing it because it's habitual. So what habits are you willing to drop? Again, this harkens back to the 80-20 principle, which you may be familiar with. 80% of your results come from 20% of your inputs. In other words, to start maximizing on your life, a good 80% of what you're doing, having, and being needs to go. If you want to maximize on your life, 80% of what you are doing right now, 80% of what you have, and 80% of who you are needs to go, and only 20% gets held on to, and then you start reinventing yourself around the 20% that you kept, replacing the 80% that you just let go of. 80% of you needs to go, be deleted. Now again, how many of you are willing to sacrifice 80% of yourself? You don't even know what the 80% is, but are you willing? Are you open? If someone just looked at you and said, all right, I figured out the 20% we're going to keep, and here's the 80% we're going to get rid of. Are you willing to have that conversation with that person, letting you know the 80% you got to drop, and then willing to actually do it? Now, willing to have the conversation is one thing because you're just listening. You're not committing to anything. But willing to actually do it, that's a whole other level. But again, let me remind you, everyone who talks personal and professional development, they all agree on this. I've never seen anyone go against the grain on this one. 80% of what you're doing needs to be dropped. This is scary for some people. It's perplexing for others. It's scary for some of you because you're so emotionally connected to 100% of what you're doing that dropping any of it feels very challenging and frightening to you. It's perplexing to some of you because you're like, well, I'm open to it, but I don't even know which 80% to drop and which 20% to keep. You're just unclear on who you are, what you're doing, and what's working and what's not. And for some of you, it's a combination of both. You don't know what to drop, and you'd be afraid to drop it once somebody told you. The good news is you can get answers to this. Coming to the university, I'll help you out. It's scary because thinking about replacing 80% of your life means a lot of your current environment is going to be gone. And I get it. It is perplexing because, again, you don't know which 80% to get rid of. And again, some of you have both problems. The issue is not the perplexity or the fear. Most people think that's the issue. Well, I just don't know what to do, or I'm afraid to do it. Most people think that's the issue. That's not the issue. The issue is whether or not you're willing to step into it despite the perplexity or the fear. This is also known as courage. And one of the challenges I find with a lot of people that when they're looking to do something new, they ask themselves, well, am I confident to do this? Or I've even had people express this to me in their own words. They'll say, well, I'm just not confident, or I'm not sure I'm confident to take this next step. And I explain to them the same thing I'm going to tell you right here. And when you're stepping into doing something new, ladies and gentlemen, you don't need confidence because you don't have any. If you're doing something new, you're not going to have any confidence. Confidence is about your past. It's about what you've done in the past. Courage is about moving forward, even though you have no track record of having done the thing that you're about to step into. That's what courage is about. If you're going to do something new, you should be calling on your courage, not calling on your confidence. Because when you call on your confidence, ain't nobody going to answer because you don't have any. You don't have confidence to do something new that you've never done before, but you can have courage and step into the fire anyway. Most people don't make change in life because they are not confident about the change. Many of you right now have a change that you want to make, but you're not making it because you're not confident. The problem is you are asking the wrong question. You're asking yourself, am I confident? That's the wrong question. Instead, you should ask yourself, am I courageous? Because when you ask yourself if you're confident, let me help you out. The answer is no. You're not confident. That's why you're not doing anything. And that's what the answer is supposed to be. It's supposed to be no. Right? Because again, you have no track record. Confidence is about your track record. It's about your history. If you have no history of doing a thing, you have no reason to be confident. But you can be courageous. When you are doing something new, you won't have belief, i.e. confidence. That's why you need courage. Courage moves you forward, and now that you've done it, guess what? Now you have confidence because you did it already. Get it? Point number 4. Today's topic, once again, is things that they all agree on. And this is all of us who are in a personal professional development space. These are things that we agree on wholeheartedly, completely. Number 4, other people's paths are not your path. Everyone agrees on this. There's no personal professional development person that says, hey, this other person followed this path. Maybe you should do exactly what they did. Maybe in a micro level, like, hey, this is what this person did to lose weight. Maybe you can do that to lose weight. But as far as their path, meaning your entire life journey, no two people's journeys are exactly the same because no two people are exactly the same. Doesn't mean you can't borrow and steal pieces from other people's journeys and use it to your gain. I do that all the time. How many times have you heard me introduce an episode of this show and tell you, I got this because I heard somebody else say this. I saw somebody else do this, and now I'm going to take it and I'm going to make my own version of it. I tell you that all the time. I do it all the time. But that doesn't mean I try to become that person. It doesn't mean I try to be them. I can't live their life. I'm not trying to, and neither should you. When you're looking around at what everyone else is doing, especially when people are like on social media these days showing off their success and telling you how they're making it happen, you could and would be tempted into believing that maybe you should be doing the same thing that they're doing. Oh, they're more successful than me. They must be doing some stuff that I'm not. So maybe I should just copy everything I see that individual doing. Or that you are somehow inadequate or coming up short because they're achieving more success, or at least it appears they are. They're doing it faster than you or better than you in some way. This is the compare and despair thing that happens, especially when you're looking around on social media these days, where a lot of people like to show you their success, or at least what looks like success. I talked about this in episode 2373. The episode title is Compare and Despair. You may be tempted to stray off your path and follow what someone else is doing just because what they're doing appears to be working well, maybe even better than your thing is working. These are all mistakes. All of these are bad ideas. They're all mistakes. Doesn't mean that you should just stick to what you're doing just because you're doing it. Also, there's a gray area in between these two, and it's not a binary. Because it could be a mistake to just keep doing the same thing you're already doing, especially if you don't have your desired results. It means that there is a certain path that is meant for you, also known as your unique ability. I talked about unique ability in episode number 2820. Embracing your unique ability, identifying and embracing your unique ability. Your unique ability is dictating what your path is supposed to be, which is different than somebody else's path, even if you two are doing similar things. I'm an entrepreneur. There are entrepreneurs out there who are above me. There are entrepreneurs who are below when it comes to output and success, or however you want to measure success. Doesn't mean that I should start following the people who are above me. I can take pieces from them that work. It doesn't mean that anyone who's not at my level should do exactly what I'm doing, because they ain't me and I'm not them. All right. So it's the same thing for you in your industry and whatever it is that you're doing. There's a certain path meant for you, your unique ability. What you do should always be in pursuit of your unique ability and what you uniquely offer to the world that only you can offer the world, that cannot be replicated by anybody else. That's the path that you should be following. Not trying to copy what someone else does if you're not them. You don't have their personality. You doing what they do ain't gonna work. All right. Many of you who listen to this, you may enjoy this show, but it doesn't mean you should start a show saying the same stuff that I say, because you ain't me. All right. Your energy is not my energy. Your approach is not my approach. Therefore, if you try to do the same thing I was doing, you wouldn't get the same result. You got to do your thing in your way. You can appreciate me same way I consume material from other people and I appreciate what they do. Doesn't mean I'm trying to be them. I just take the pieces that work for me and I leave the stuff that doesn't. We call this eat the meat and spit out the bones. I talked about this as well in episode number 2337. Take the pieces that work for you, leave out the parts that don't. If you get thrown off your path by trying to be someone else or doing what someone else is doing, you will always set yourself backwards. Now, it never moves you forward to do this. So that said, let's recap today's class, which is what they all agree on. When I say they, I mean all of us who are in the personal and professional development space. 4 principles we all agree on. Number 1, you must operate as if you are already successful. There is no one who says operate like the average person you are now, and then when you become successful, then you can change your mindset. No, you change it now. Point number 2, keep your mind locked on what you want, never on what you don't want. You can just focus on what you want. I call this the life-changing 48-hour experiment. In episode number 2023, this is how you flip everything in your life in a very short period of time. Get your mind focused and locked in on what you want and on nothing else. Number 3, for growth, you must get off the treadmill of the familiar and step into the discomfort of change. 80% of what you're doing now needs to be dropped. 20% of it needs to be kept. Your job is figuring out what's the 80 and what's the 20. Number 4, other people's paths are not your path. You can borrow pieces from other people, but never try to follow another person's path exactly, because you will always fail, because you are not them and they are not you. That said, folks, make sure you text to join the community. You want to work with me directly and start applying this stuff to your life with my direct help, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all